and get off this thing because it's noisy.
Are we rolling? And where should I look?
And you want Angela to be heard, yeah?
Yeah, I mean, we might not use her voice.
Right.
Oh, okay.
But just in case.
Just in case.
So in that case, since you're behind the camera, kind of, just try to talk up and like project a little bit.
Okay.
Not crazy, but just a little.
Okay. Thanks for talking with me, Matthew.
Thank you for doing this. I appreciate it because I really don't like talking to a camera.
This is great. This is so exciting. Why don't we start with what prompted you to write Growing Pains?
Oh, well, you know, it's interesting. I started the whole grad school process not really knowing exactly what I would be getting into, aside from the fact that I was looking for an advanced degree, and that's really where my mind stopped. So when halfway through grad school my sister passed away, my world was turned upside down. And I honestly didn't think I'd get through anything, let alone finishing grad school. And then I realized all of the questions that I'd been asking myself about identity and the thing that I thought I was going to study and explore and then examine for a thesis, looking at how queer and LGBT community impacted my identity, or like these kinds of weird questions that I had, it really shifted, and it became very clear that the focus would be on how my relationship with my sister impacted my identity, and how she was actually the first person to recognize and vocalize my being gay. So that led to looking back at our childhood and examining all of the times where I had an opportunity to live authentically, but I chose not to, and how she kind of conspired with me to keep this secret for a really long time. That led to this play.
Wow. What is your thesis?
The thesis is exploring my identity through my sister, and the lens of my sister, and how our relationship impacted my art making process, essentially, and life. I mean, and it gets tricky, right? Because our parents obviously had a major impact in that, and then also my grandma Schaefer, my dad's mom, really started the whole kind of creative spark, or she was like, she saw that there was a creative spark in me, and she ignited it at the library.
Would you talk a little bit about your
Sure.
history in the performing arts in general?
So my backstory?
Yes.
Sure. So I from the moment that I saw Singing in the Rain or West Side Story, either of those films, both of them around the same time, I knew like that was what I wanted to do. And I think, and this is what kind of sparked the curiosity about my thesis. Originally, I was looking at identity and how my being gay, which came first, the chicken or the egg, kind of, so to speak. Is my being gay a result of the fact that I am a dancer, artist, that I was attracted to that kind of, or that I was passionate about that kind of thing at a young age, or was I drawn to that because I knew that that was a safe haven for me, right? Well, my grandmother, I think, recognized it even before my sister did, except that my sister was the one that articulated it out loud. My grandmother made sure that I was nurtured and fostered it in bringing me to the library and making sure that I saw like public performances in public spaces, so that she could, or so that I could see that there were other people like me, but without acknowledging it vocally. And then just encouraging, like she encouraged every artistic inclination that I had. Like my grandparents owned a liquor store, and they had a front window that like displayed out to Main Street, and she would always decorate it for all of the holidays. And when I got old enough, she would let me have a little corner of the display case to decorate. And just like moments like that, nurturing these creative instincts. She did that for both me and my sister. And then we just kind of went down that line the rest of our lives. I was in 8th grade, I was in speech and debate, and I was writing a lot. I've kept a journal for as far back as I can remember. And my grandmother encouraged me to enter the 8th grade graduation writing contest, and I was like, yeah, I think I will, and I did, and I was one of the selected writers to give a speech at our commencement, and my grandmother helped me write that speech. I would call her. This was before FaceTime. I wish it existed back then. But I would call her, and we would talk on the phone, and I would read my speech to her, rather. And she would give me notes, but mostly it was just praise. But yeah, that's her backstory.
How do you think your sister has affected your performing career?
Well, Cherie was always more naturally gifted as a dancer, actor, and singer, but I wanted it, and so I was driven in a way toward doing what I needed to do to get there. And so, I was pretty aggressive about auditioning and taking dance classes and things like that. And the more, the bigger my ego or personality or passion for this art and this industry grew, the more it shrank in my sister. And that was a big part of looking at this through the lens of my sister's eyes and seeing how, because if I'm going to look at how our relationship, how she impacted me, I have to look at how I impacted her. And so and that's a huge part of this play, was me imagining her response to something that either it was born out of a conversation that did happen in our past, or that I wanted it to happen, but she always shut it down for whatever reason. I got to kind of suppose her reasoning. And in doing that, I got to see how often I probably subconsciously bullied her into not following her dream of dancing or performing. And I go back and forth with this because, I stand on a national platform every weekend at talent conventions, and I talk out to an audience of eager young artists who are trying to learn what it takes. And the thing that it takes more than anything is your desire to want this. And Cherie didn't want this as much as I wanted it. So then Cherie started wanting this for me. And in our adult life, that became our relationship, is that my sister took over being my number one champion from my grandmother when she passed away. And so my sister then was a huge advocate for my continuation and my success. And at the same time, she wanted me to be home being back in Colorado where she had moved back to, because I think she knew her time on earth was limited, and also she wanted me close to her daughter, my beautiful niece.
What has surprised you the most about directing the piece?
Well, when I wrote it, it was cathartic. It was painful. I cried a lot, and I was reading a lot on sibling loss. There isn't a lot out there. I learned, that was the first thing I learned when I lost my sister, is that there's a lot of work out there and help out there for parents who have lost children and children who have lost parents. But there aren't a lot of books out there for siblings who have lost a sibling. So the writing process, it was hard, but I anticipated it. I love directing, I love choreographing, I love being in a theater, I love working with actors. So what I was not anticipating, and the hardest part of this process, was watching actors who I respect and who I'm close with. One of them is my partner. Watching them bring to life my story and my sister, and I have to witness every mistake that I made in my life. Watching it unfold on stage, that was hard. And emotionally, I wasn't prepared for it as a director. And there were moments when I wanted the scene to go a different way, but it wasn't fair of me to ask the actors, because it's in the text and they're reading it the way that it's written. And they're interpreting it the way that they interpret it. And so that was kind of hard, because I'm like, well, that's where I got it wrong. See, I didn't see from my sister's point of view, but I get to see it through the actors. So I think I did a good job with my writing, but it's frustrating as a director because I want to change it and I really can't unless I want to change my writing, and I don't.
That's a big challenge.
Yeah.
What's been the most joyful thing about directing it?
Watching these actors who I respect bring me and my sister and our story to life. It's I will never get to see her on this earth again other than in a recording, or I hear her voice, in a voice message that I've saved. But this is the closest to working through all of the things that we didn't get to resolve. And of course, there are so many unresolved things. This is not a catch-all, and it didn't fix or change certain things, but I've felt joy in getting to have some closure in a way that I think my sister would be proud, because she knew how much I loved doing what I do.
What are your hopes for the future of the play and how it will affect the audience?
Thank you for that question. I think every writer hopes that their work lives on beyond them and their circle of community. I use the word community because I hope that what this play will do is be of service to the people that are grieving and communities at large that are grieving. Grief is different every day, and it's different for every person, as far as I can tell, and from every conversation that I've had with professionals and friends and family and actors and professors, and everyone has a different way of working through their grief and their loss. But what I think that I've done with this play is I've touched on moments in one's life that are universal and explored them in a way that we don't look at until we've lost someone. And we don't have these conversations in society, or at least not in American culture. We don't have conversations. I mean, my grandmother used to say, and it's in the play, she used to say, you won't get these moments back, And there's a version of, I'm paraphrasing, but there's a version of what she says in the play, reminding me and my sister that one day we will be the only people that are like witness to the life that we've led. And that moment in the play always strikes me because my sister is gone, and like that witness that would testify to my life, she knows where the skeletons are buried, she's gone. And so I was not prepared for that, and I don't think anyone's prepared for that, whether you lose someone at 8 years old or 48 years old or beyond, it doesn't matter. And so what I hope that the play does is it reminds everyone that we all go through this rite of passage of loving someone and losing them, and how it impacts us forever forward, and what we will do with that. Because what I hope to do is to honor my sister and continue creating work that inspires and challenges and motivates and is from a positive place, because that's who my sister was.
Thank you, Matthew.
Thank you. Thank you. I could cry. I was like really fighting back the tears.
Is there any other questions?
No. I think that's good. And if so, I can insert them in, but I think that gives us a good... Thank you, Angela. Those were good questions.